So, if you've not been paying attention to the news that certainly does not hit the major headlines in the mainstream media, um, one of the more interesting and disturbing stories over the past couple of weeks is something that transpired apparently in the state of Colorado, where a traffic stop resulted in the discovery of two illegal aliens in possession of and transporting 180,000 rounds of 7.62 by 51 ammo. Now, that's basically the equivalent of 308. So 308 is a very common hunting round in bolt guns, but I don't know anybody who buys 180,000 rounds to go elk hunting, right? Why are these guys transporting that amount of ammo? And why in the world did whoever sold it to them in Utah, apparently they bought it in Utah, sell that amount of money to a couple of illegals? Okay. So why are they transporting this? Then about a week later, another illegal alien was rolled up transporting about 18,000 rounds of, again, the same ammo. So that ammunition, again, we are going on the presumption that they are not hunting elks with it. That's machine gun ammo, right? That can be linked up for belt fed machine guns. So this seems very clearly that the ammo is going to the cartel for use either south of the border or more likely north of the border within the continental United States, right? This is all of the aftermath from our wonderful administration that was in charge over the past 4 years and left the border wide open. Okay. When something kicks off, everybody who is now squawking about the current administration actually deporting all of these criminals, they can look themselves in the mirror and thank themselves when something kicks off here. Because what is being planned that we see illegal aliens getting their hands on that amount of machine gun ammo. Now, as the armed citizen in the continental United States, you have to come to the conclusion that this is no longer um, the early 2000s where we had a true lull in crime, right? The crackhead with a switchblade in a dark alley is not the only thing you have to worry about anymore. If the cartel is arming up in this capacity, what do they have planned? If we go to any kind of operation in Mexico to try to hamstring these cartels, who are responsible, of course, for over 100,000 deaths every year in the United States for fentanyl laced overdoses, right? What might they have planned? Probably acts of terror here in the continental United States. So if you find yourself in a crowded location, most likely in a blue area, right? Places where people are forcefully denied their constitutional rights to be armed, because we all know that's where these things will happen. Okay. You have to have a plan of egress. You have to pay attention to what's happening around you and get yourself and your loved ones out of the situation immediately. Now, if you are fortunate enough to be in a location that would see such an attack, okay, because when we look at this, the only thing that comes to my mind is possible mass attacks on the populace. And if you're in a free state where you will be armed at that time, are you up to the task of going up to perhaps multiple people with rifles and maybe even machine guns with just your handgun? That's a pretty pretty daunting task, right? Um, but it still can be a game changer. We've seen it happen many times where people armed with just their carry gun have neutralized at significant distances rifle armed attackers. So think about that. What is your capability reaching out further than the typical handgun engagement with your pistol? That combined with a constant plan and constant awareness to egress a bad situation, which will most likely transpire in crowded locations. Okay, so we're looking at not only the prospect of a likely terror attack committed by foreign jihadi actors within the next year, as a lot of very credible ex intelligence people are anticipating we're in for, But what do these cartels have in mind? What do they have planned? Okay, we're living in dangerous times. So be cognizant of what is happening in your vicinity, be aware of what's happening around you at all times. Stay armed at all times possible, and I really encourage you to avoid going to the locations where people are disarmed like sheep, because that is where something is going to happen when it happens. Okay? Pay attention to what's happening, and you have to look beyond anything that the beyond worthless mainstream media feeds you. They feed you propaganda. Okay? They are villainizing the administration that is now getting rid of thugs. Okay? Of violent, vicious felons are being deported, and that somehow is a bad thing. Yet we have tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people with or aligned with the drug cartels in the country now, thanks to the administration of the past several years. So pay attention to what's happening. We're living in very dangerous times thanks to that previous administration. And it's going to be a while before we're out of the woods with this, if we ever are.